Hello and welcome guys to another video, but today this one's going to be a very different one. We're going to be looking at the locations of Broken Arrow based on the real world. So as you might already know, the locations in Broken Arrow are mostly, or almost entirely, most of them, I think 90% of them, are based on real places, and we can see that clear. Look, here's Klaipeda, there's Riga, and obviously Riga Airport is, well, the airport of the city. There's Kaliningrad, and yeah, there's a few others around the map that we're going to talk about later, but today, well actually as we zoom in, we also see Baltisk, which is a beautiful little map right here. So yeah, all real locations, which I think is super cool. But the one I want to talk about today is Kaliningrad. So here we are. You probably recognize this look from the map already. Obviously the objectives are not marked, but we know that Alpha is here, and that's basically the one that decides whether you win or lose. Here's the stadium, and here's all the docks. Obviously the sea is that way towards Baltisk. Really cool. Really love the fact that they use real locations, because you know when a game designs maps and they're sort of a bit fake, it really, you can tell, it doesn't feel as authentic or as fun to play on. So the one thing Broken Arrow really does have going for it is the fact that it uses real maps. So what we're going to be doing today is having a look at the map in game and the map in real life. So if I go across, there we go, here's Broken Arrow. And here's the map. Obviously, I can't really do this as well on Google Maps. Maybe Google Earth, I'll give that a try. But otherwise, it's a beautiful little map. Now, people hate it, people love it. I am personally on the love side. And I thought I'd start the mini-series of looking at maps in real life versus in the game with Kaliningrad, because this is a place I've actually been to. The only place, by the way, I should clarify, that I've been to out of all the maps. And that's because I went here for the World Cup in 2018, the Russia World Cup. This stadium, by the way, is beautiful, and I think the art, which is a good place to start, is, I mean, the model is great. Look at that. That looks pretty damn realistic. It is a beautiful stadium. I went here to watch England versus Belgium, and England lost, which was boring, but, you know, English football can be like that. And I think I was sat somewhere, you know, relatively somewhere up here. I can't really remember. I mean, 2018 was what, nearly 8 years, Jesus Christ, yeah, nearly 8 years ago. And I remember that we stayed in an Airbnb somewhere around here, because I remember this really long walk. There wasn't a bridge here. You had to walk all the way around across this bridge to here, which was good fun. It was really good fun. And to be honest, I loved it. One of the, well, the best event I've ever been to in my life. But enough about me. Let's talk about the map. And I think a really good place to start is this little cathedral, because it's obviously beautiful. This, by the way, the history of Kaliningrad is that it used to be part of, well, the capital of the Prussian Empire. World War II happened, Russia took it, and basically all of the nice old German buildings mainly got, well, what's a nice way to put it? Bombed to shit. But that's war. That is what happens. I mean, Germany started it. It was your fault, so there's the consequences. But here we go. Let's have a look at the cathedral from this perspective. That is a beautiful building, by the way. And when we look in game, I think they've actually paid a lot of attention to detail. I mean, that looks really good. Yeah, nice little building there. Let's have a look at some other angles. Well, you know what, we won't spend too much time on just this overall. Let's have a look at the map in general. One thing I did notice is this House of Commons, or whatever it was called, the big old ugly Soviet building, which is right here. Yeah, there's no water here. This is where they've been a bit untrue, because there's no river or anything going through. This is just land. And I think it's a really interesting design choice that they have chosen to have three cramped bridges. You know, Russia would never build that. That's way too luxurious. Three big bridges there instead. But, I mean, it would have made sense to just have that as the little lake or whatever it is. What is it over here? Yeah, it looks like a little lake. Amber Museum. Whoa, that is cool. I wish this was in the game. And look at that boat. That is really cool. I get distracted way too easily. Let's just have a look. I'm pretty sure that that's not in. It should be here, I take it. Yeah, something like that. But it's not in. That would have been a cool building to play for, a little castle. Looks like the one in Rome, to be fair. You know, that Michelangelo, St. Michael, whatever castle. Right, okay, anyway, let's have a look at this part of the map then. So I think I'm just going to concentrate on the main part, and in the game, obviously, the dockyards, we can have a quick look at. It's not really the main part, but, you know, obviously they've taken port. In Russian, it's just port. Nice. Obviously, yeah, I think they've done that pretty well. It's pretty safe to say. It looks pretty much the exact same. This is the most I can zoom out, unfortunately, but looks pretty good. And I understand that they need artistic licenses. They're not going to put all these industrial buildings and warehouses, and I do understand that they need to balance them up for game's sake as well. For example, yeah, we see these cylinders, which I think are represented by these. Very small difference, but, you know, like, it's a game. Whatever, we can let them off for that thing. We move across to the rail yard. Yeah, I think that's actually pretty Prigolya River. Prigolya River is here. And here's that little dockyard, which with obviously these points being quite stalematey, but fun to smoke and rush across the bridges to try and do some work. Obviously, one bridge here, one tight little bridge. Looks really cool. Oh, it lifts. I like bridges that move. Yeah, wow, that's a lot of ships actually in the port. Maybe there should be a few more ships like around this area. But yeah, it's only one bridge, whereas they've done two here just so you can rush across a bit slightly safer by spreading your troops out a tiny little bit. So yeah, that's really cool too. Like I said, I'm just going to be concentrating on the main parts. Here's where probably used to be a bridge. Ooh, science vessel. That's cool. Yeah, so there's ships all along the river here, which would have actually been pretty cool to stick in, I think. People don't use ships in the game enough, like, you know, to shoot from. So it would have been cool if they were here too. But anyway, it's getting very close to the city centre here. So yeah, still more boats, still like lots of... Oh, is that an aquarium? That is a... Bloody hell, that's a cool looking aquarium. That is, come on, guys. That is a super. I didn't see that when I was there. I was busy focusing on the football, not the aquariums and stuff. But that is super cool. Vitiaz, that says, which means like a knight, basically, Sir Knight. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, enough about this. But I'm not a travel agent. But that is a submarine. Jesus, okay, I really missed out. I only stuck to the football, to the beer, to the party, to the drinking. It actually seems like the city centre, whilst this is obviously quite clearly the Museum of Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher, a Prussian philosopher, I should say, by the way, that is. Yeah, the city centre feels like it's actually more over here. Clearly a German bunker back there as well. But this is where I've mainly been, and this is where, obviously, the battle is centered around, even though it's a little bit more sparse there. So let's have a look at this area, because this is one that I found quite interesting. Obviously, we see that there's construction, which is, again, accurately reflected. I think that's really, really cool. But we see here, when we go on street view, let's go over here on the motorway. It's obviously a bit of an elevated motorway, which is an interesting thing that they obviously choose not to do. They just raise it, you know, on the grass, so it's still a ground, not an elevated motorway. But what the biggest difference is here, that these buildings are obviously really ugly Soviet blocks of flats. I can't imagine what it is like per always living in there, you know. I did stay in one of those, but living in them is obviously going to be something that's very different. But yeah, when we look around these buildings, yeah, we see those tall Soviet blocks, which aren't exactly these ones. So they've chosen a deliberate choice to have more of these tall blocks. I think the blocks are more like closer. They're closer to these ones, aren't they? I mean, God, yeah, they are horrible to look at. But instead of putting loads of those ones here, they've decided to put the tall buildings, which is an interesting design choice. I think, especially with this large open area, which again is reflected in reality. If we zoom back out, that is a really cool design choice. Obviously, here is just open fields, and yeah, I guess with taller buildings, it gives you basically more of an interesting fight for these open areas. But otherwise, yeah, it is a very waterlogged city, and it's very cool. Let me know what you guys think of this map in the comments below. I'm sure there's going to be very controversial, very mixed opinions. Yeah, so I would have stayed roughly about here somewhere when I was here, which, yeah, I had a good time. I loved it. Let's have a look at this other main focus point of the map. So we've looked at the stadium. By the way, I'll just show you it very quickly in real life. I do think it is a beautiful building. There we go. Look at that. That looks cool. That looks like it is during the World Cup, actually. 2018. There you go. June 2018. Probably the same time I was there. But yeah, that's a cool looking stadium. What's interesting is as well that the actual material of the stadium, it's like mesh panels, which I think was super duper cool. Whoa. Yeah, there we go. What game's on? We can't tell. The quality of this picture is way... Hello, Sergey. Sorry. It's yeah, easy to get distracted, but if I just show you a close-up of the stadium... Okay, it's just going to take us into the actual stadium, which is a little bit annoying, but yeah, the material that's made of is like these really cool mesh panels. I mean, God, you must be bored of hearing my voice by now. But anyway, there you see the little holes, perforations. Yeah, it was really cool. Anyway, enough about that. Let's move to the center. So yeah, this is where they've, I wouldn't say fucked it up or anything, but they've made it slightly untrue to real life. So there's that House of Communists, or again, whatever it's called, very ugly Soviet building, and here's that lake behind it. Here's that very same building and the parks behind it, so not entirely true. Let's have a look at it from the street view. So, ooh, not great. Okay, and there we go. The building itself doesn't actually look too bad. I mean, a bit run down, obviously, but yeah. Let's have a look at it from this angle, which is the same angle from the road. Obviously, they've put an extra road in here. There we go. Is that a good comparison? I think so. What if we go a little bit further away, actually? Even better. Right, there we are. So yeah, quite a cool building, apart from they've put the antenna on the wrong corner. Attention to details, boys, because, you know, simple mistake today, safety catch tomorrow. But there we go. I think that sums up the view of the area quite nicely. When we look at the buildings, obviously they can't replicate every individual building, but around these neighborhoods, we've got those similar styled Soviet blocks. Obviously, Soviet Russia has different iterations of the blocks. They've got the Khrushchevkas and stuff like that, but yeah, I mean, it's a very close attempt, isn't it? It looks pretty convincing to me. They've actually made the balconies 3D. Cool stuff. But there we go. Here's a quick little overview of the city. And in terms of reality, you know what? And how it feels versus obviously how I found it in real life, I'll give it a solid 9 out of 10. Good map overall, and my points income is bloody high. Hope you enjoyed this quick little video about the map. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.